The evening began like any other at the small, cozy restaurant tucked in a quiet corner of the city. Families were chatting over their meals, friends were laughing, and the staff were moving swiftly from table to table, making sure everyone was comfortable. The warm light from the hanging lamps created a soft glow over the wooden tables, and the smell of fresh bread and simmering sauces filled the air. It was just another ordinary night, or so everyone thought. Near the entrance, a young child walked in with a small music folder clutched tightly under one arm. The child's steps were careful, almost cautious, but there was something in the way they held themselves that made it clear they were not ordinary. The restaurant owner noticed immediately. Something about the child's calm confidence and quiet focus made him curious. The child's parents followed closely, smiling gently, as if they knew exactly what was about to happen. The child chose a corner near the small stage area, a spot often used for local performers during weekend nights. The staff exchanged glances, unsure if they should interfere or just let it happen. The child set down the folder carefully, straightened up, and then looked around, making brief eye contact with a few diners. There was no fear, only quiet determination. It was the kind of presence that made people stop and pay attention without even realizing it. As the child opened the folder, the restaurant owner felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The place had seen many performers, but something about this young visitor felt different. The diners, oblivious to the unfolding moment, continued their meals, chatting and laughing, until the first soft notes began to float through the air. Even before the sound reached the tables, there was a subtle change in the atmosphere. Conversations slowed. People looked up from their plates, curious about the delicate, clear tone that had just begun to fill the room. The child's voice was gentle at first, almost as if testing the space. It was soft, yet pure, carrying a weight and control that seemed impossible for someone so young. Diners began to listen, some leaning back in their chairs, forks paused mid-air, eyes widening in surprise. The staff stopped in their tracks, trays in hand, captivated by the sound. There was no doubt in anyone's mind that this was not an ordinary performance. The child's voice held a depth and clarity that could only come from years of practice and natural talent. A hush settled over the restaurant. Even those who were on the verge of conversation found themselves listening, drawn into the gentle power of the music. The child's family watched quietly, their pride barely contained, but they did not interrupt. It was clear they understood the importance of letting the child shine, allowing the audience to be fully immersed in the moment. As the song continued, the child's confidence grew. Notes that seemed challenging for seasoned adults were delivered effortlessly, with precise control and emotion that touched the heart. Some diners felt a lump form in their throats, moved unexpectedly by the beauty of the performance. Others whispered softly to their companions, trying to describe what they were hearing, yet finding words inadequate. The voice filled the room in a way that made every ordinary sound fade into the background. Silverware clinking, water glasses tipping. Even the hum of the kitchen seemed to blend perfectly into the music, as if the child's talent had transformed the entire restaurant into a symphony hall. The restaurant owner walked closer, careful not to disturb the performance. He had seen many talented musicians over the years, but never someone so young with such control and understanding of music. There was a sense that the child was not just performing a song. They were telling a story, conveying emotions that could resonate with anyone who listened closely. Patrons began to sit straighter, some closing their eyes to absorb every note. Children at nearby tables stopped fidgeting, mesmerized by the unfamiliar yet captivating sound. One elderly couple at the back of the room held hands, tears forming in their eyes. They had been married for decades, and yet the child's music stirred memories and feelings they had long forgotten. Another diner, a young student, whispered to her friend, unable to contain her amazement, pointing out how impossible it seemed that someone so young could sing with such depth and precision. The atmosphere was electric, yet calm, a rare combination that left everyone spellbound. The child did not rush, nor did they appear to be showing off. Every note was intentional, every pause meaningful. It was as if the child understood the weight of the moment and the impact of each sound. The performance drew attention without demanding it, captivating hearts without arrogance. Staff who had been moving briskly just moments before now stood still, listening, almost afraid to break the spell. Some diners discreetly took out their phones, careful not to disrupt, wanting to capture the magic that had entered their evening so unexpectedly. After a few minutes, the song shifted slightly, moving into a more powerful section. The child's voice rose and fell with emotion, demonstrating not just technical skill, but a deep understanding of the music itself. The audience could feel the intensity, the passion, the story embedded in the melody. Conversations had stopped entirely. Even the sounds from the kitchen seemed to quiet down, as if acknowledging the importance of this rare performance. The child's parents exchanged subtle smiles, their eyes shining with pride and quiet amazement. They had nurtured this talent carefully, and seeing it appreciated by complete strangers was a moment of validation and joy. The restaurant owner felt a surge of gratitude that such a unique experience had graced his establishment, transforming a normal evening into something extraordinary. He looked around at the diners, all absorbed and captivated, realizing that they were witnessing a truly remarkable moment. As the song neared its end, the child's voice softened once more, returning to the gentle, almost fragile tone from the beginning. It was a delicate finish, leaving a sense of awe lingering in the air. Diners remained silent for a moment, unsure whether to breathe or applaud, caught in the quiet after such a powerful performance. Then, gradually, the room erupted into claps, cheers, and applause. Some stood up, clapping enthusiastically, while others wiped tears from their eyes, still overwhelmed by what they had just experienced. The child bowed slightly, a humble gesture acknowledging the audience's reaction. The parents joined in, quietly sharing in the applause, proud but careful not to overshadow the moment. Staff came forward, congratulating the child with smiles and words of praise. The restaurant owner approached, shaking the child's hand warmly and complimenting the talent and courage it took to perform in front of strangers. It was a scene of joy, admiration, and astonishment all rolled into one, a moment that would be remembered by everyone present for a long time. That evening, the restaurant was filled not just with the usual chatter and clinking of cutlery, but with stories and excitement sparked by a 10-year-old prodigy who had entered quietly, yet left an unforgettable mark. Every diner left talking about the performance, some still humming the melody, others sharing the experience on their phones. Even long after the child and family had gone home, the energy of the performance lingered, a reminder that extraordinary talent can appear in the most ordinary places and transform an everyday evening into something magical and unforgettable. After the first performance, the restaurant returned to its normal rhythm, but something had changed. Diners continued their meals, but their conversations now carried excitement and curiosity. Everyone who had heard the young prodigy knew they had witnessed something rare. People whispered to one another, replaying the melody in their minds and trying to explain the feelings the music had stirred in them. The air felt lighter, yet charged with a quiet energy, as though the restaurant itself had been transformed by the presence of such talent. The child sat quietly with their family, smiling gently but still humble. Despite the applause, there was no boastfulness, no desire for extra attention. The focus remained entirely on the music and the joy it had brought. The parents encouraged this, understanding that the magic of the moment was more important than recognition or praise. They knew their child's talent was extraordinary, but they also knew that the best way to nurture it was to let it grow naturally, without pressure. Some diners were curious and approached the child politely, asking questions about the music. Where had they learned to sing? How long had they been practicing? The child answered with modesty, explaining that they loved music and had spent years learning from teachers and mentors. It was clear that the dedication went far beyond natural talent. It was a combination of passion, effort, and patience. Every word the child spoke reflected maturity beyond their age, yet it was grounded in simplicity and honesty that made everyone feel at ease. A small group of diners who had been recording the performance shared the videos on their phones. Within minutes, other tables were gathered around screens, watching the performance again and again. Every replay seemed to bring the audience closer, as if each person were discovering a new layer of emotion or technical skill that they had missed the first time. The restaurant was buzzing, not with noise, but with fascination and admiration. The child's performance had also caught the attention of the staff in a deeper way. The servers and cooks felt proud to be part of a place that had hosted something so special. The head chef, who often spent long hours in the kitchen, paused to watch the videos being shared by diners, nodding with quiet appreciation. He understood that moments like these were rare, that they added a kind of magic to everyday life that couldn't be planned or manufactured. As the evening continued, the child asked if they could perform another piece. The restaurant owner agreed without hesitation, recognizing the value of the experience for everyone present. This time, the child chose a song that was slightly more complex, one that demanded not just technical skill but deep emotional connection. The diners shifted in their seats, leaning forward instinctively, ready to be moved again. There was anticipation in the air, a collective sense that something even more remarkable was about to happen. The music began softly, almost like a whisper, and gradually grew in strength and emotion. The child's voice carried a natural richness, filling every corner of the room with sound that seemed larger than life. Diners closed their eyes, letting the music wash over them, feeling each note resonate in their hearts. The song told a story of hope, of dreams, and of challenges overcome, and the audience could sense every emotion the child intended to convey. Children in the restaurant watched in awe, inspired by the young singer. They whispered to each other, wide-eyed, trying to understand how someone their age could sing with such control and expression. Even the adults, who had experienced countless performances in their lives, felt a rare sense of humility and admiration. It was a reminder that talent and passion could appear in the most unexpected places, capable of touching everyone regardless of age or background. As the song progressed, the child's confidence shone through. Every phrase was delivered with precision, yet carried warmth and emotion that made it feel personal to each listener. The audience responded instinctively, leaning in, holding their breath, and then releasing it with sighs of wonder as the song reached its crescendos. The child's ability to connect with the audience was remarkable, not through words, but through music that spoke directly to the heart. Between songs, diners approached cautiously, offering compliments and encouragement. The child accepted them graciously, always returning the focus to the music rather than themselves. One diner asked how the child managed to stay so calm and focused, and the answer was simple yet profound. The love for music made every performance feel natural, not pressured. The humility and dedication of the child impressed everyone even more than the talent itself. The restaurant owner watched all of this with a mixture of pride and wonder. He had never imagined that a quiet corner of his restaurant could become the stage for something so extraordinary. It was a reminder that life often surprises us with moments of beauty when we least expect it. He silently promised himself that if such a young prodigy returned in the future, he would ensure the child had every opportunity to share their gift with others. As the evening wore on, the child's family and the restaurant staff worked together seamlessly. The parents guided the child with gentle support, the staff made room for curious diners without interrupting the flow, and the owner made sure the environment remained welcoming and comfortable. The harmony between talent, family, and community created a sense of unity in the room, an invisible thread connecting everyone through shared wonder. By the time the child concluded the second performance, the restaurant had transformed completely. What had begun as a casual evening of dining had become a shared experience of art, emotion, and admiration. Patrons lingered longer, reluctant to leave, savoring not just the music but the memory of having witnessed something truly special. Conversations revolved around the child, the song, and the power of talent to inspire and uplift. Even after the performances, the child remained approachable and kind. Diners asked for advice, tips, and encouragement for young musicians in their own families. The child responded with patience, offering simple guidance and encouragement, showing that talent alone was not enough. It was the love for what you do and the effort you put into it that mattered most. The interaction left a lasting impression, reinforcing the idea that greatness could be combined with humility and generosity. Staff began sharing their own stories, talking about the many guests who had come and gone, but none who had left such a profound impact. The head chef smiled as he returned to the kitchen, reflecting on how a young voice could turn a normal night into a moment that would be remembered for years. The servers continued their work with renewed energy, motivated by the sense that they had been part of something rare and meaningful. The evening ended with diners slowly leaving, each carrying a piece of the experience with them. Some hummed the melodies, others recounted the story to friends and family, and a few simply sat quietly, letting the memory sink in. The child, with their family, quietly packed up and prepared to leave, leaving behind a restaurant filled with gratitude, admiration, and inspiration. That night, everyone who had been present knew they had witnessed a young prodigy whose talent and humility created a moment of pure magic. The restaurant returned to its calm state, but the energy lingered, a reminder of the power of music to bring people together, to inspire, and to leave an unforgettable mark on everyone it touches. It was a simple evening turned extraordinary, a night that would be remembered as the night a 10-year-old prodigy amazed the whole restaurant and reminded everyone of the beauty that exists in the world when passion and talent meet. The night continued to deepen, and the restaurant, though calmer now, carried an air of anticipation. Even after the second performance, everyone could sense that the evening was far from ordinary. Diners spoke in low tones, recalling the earlier songs, still amazed at the talent they had just witnessed. It was not just a child singing. It was a story being told through music, a story that everyone in the room seemed to feel in their hearts. The child's family sat quietly at their table, watching the reactions around them. They were proud, of course, but their pride was soft, almost protective. They knew the child's talent was extraordinary, yet they understood that each performance had its own life and needed space to breathe. The child, meanwhile, was focused and calm, reviewing the next piece in the music folder with an expression of gentle determination. There was no rush, no need for applause. The focus was purely on the music itself. The restaurant owner, noticing the attention the child had drawn, approached quietly. He asked if the child would perform another piece, this time on the small stage where other musicians sometimes played. The child nodded politely, and the staff quickly prepared the area. Chairs were moved slightly, the lighting adjusted to highlight the performance area, and even the background music was turned down. Every detail was attended to without disturbing the flow of the evening. It was a quiet preparation, yet it carried the promise of something special about to happen. The child stepped onto the stage with quiet confidence. The diners turned instinctively, their eyes drawn to the young figure standing poised and ready. The first notes floated softly through the restaurant, gentle but precise. As the song progressed, the child's voice expanded, filling the room with rich, resonant tones that seemed larger than the small space. The melody was captivating, each phrase carefully shaped, each pause meaningful. It was clear that the child understood not just the technical aspects of singing but the deeper emotional story behind the song. Diners leaned forward, some closing their eyes, some holding their hands together, completely absorbed in the performance. The child's voice carried warmth and emotion, making it feel personal to each listener. The song spoke of hope, joy, and longing, emotions that resonated deeply with everyone present. Even those who had not initially been attentive found themselves drawn in, their previous chatter forgotten, replaced by a sense of awe and wonder. As the performance continued, the child's mastery became even more evident. Complex notes that might challenge adults were delivered effortlessly, with clarity and precision. Yet it was not just technical skill that impressed the audience. It was the feeling behind each note. The child's voice seemed to reach directly into the heart, touching emotions that words could not capture. Diners were silent, listening intently, some moved to tears, others unable to stop smiling, completely mesmerized. Staff members watched in amazement, unable to look away. Even the head chef, who often spent long hours focused on cooking and rarely paused for performances, stopped in his tracks. He watched as the child's voice filled the space, transforming the restaurant from a casual dining area into something closer to a grand concert hall. The power of the performance was undeniable, yet it was delivered with humility and grace, not force or bravado. It was a rare combination, and everyone present recognized its uniqueness. Children in the restaurant watched with wide eyes, whispering softly to each other. They were inspired, amazed that someone their age could command such skill and emotion. Adults, too, felt humbled, realizing that age was no barrier to greatness when dedication and passion were combined. Conversations ceased entirely, and even the usual background noise, the clinking of glasses, the rustle of napkins, faded into the background, leaving only the voice that filled the room. The child's movements were minimal, yet every gesture complemented the music. The hands occasionally rose or folded gently, emphasizing a note or a pause, guiding the audience through the story without distraction. It was not a performance meant to draw attention to the performer. It was about the music, about connecting hearts through song. Each person listening felt included, as if the music was speaking directly to them. After a particularly high note, the audience held its breath, unsure whether the song would continue or conclude. The child's voice softened, flowing seamlessly into the next passage, showing control and understanding far beyond their years. Diners were drawn in, hearts beating in time with the rhythm of the song, caught in the delicate balance of power and emotion. Every note seemed deliberate, intentional, carrying meaning that reached far beyond the words or melody alone. As the song reached its climax, the child's voice soared with confidence, yet never overpowered the room. The combination of technical skill and emotional depth was breathtaking. Some diners whispered to each other, wondering how someone so young could sing with such precision and feeling. Others simply closed their eyes, letting the music move them without words or explanation. The atmosphere was electric yet calm, a paradox that left everyone fully present in the moment. When the final notes were sung, there was a pause, a stillness so complete that even the air seemed to hold its breath. Then, gradually, applause began, first soft, then louder, spreading throughout the restaurant. Diners stood, clapping enthusiastically, some with tears in their eyes, all with smiles of admiration and gratitude. The child bowed slightly, a gesture of humility and appreciation, acknowledging the audience without drawing attention away from the music itself. The restaurant owner approached once more, shaking the child's hand warmly. Words of praise were offered, but there was no over-the-top fanfare. The moment remained intimate, personal, and profoundly moving. Staff and diners alike congratulated the young singer, their faces lit with joy and amazement. It was clear that everyone felt honored to be part of the evening, to witness something truly remarkable in such an ordinary place. The child returned to the table with their family, still calm and collected, showing a maturity beyond their years. Diners continued to talk quietly among themselves, sharing their experiences and reliving the performance in their minds. Some pulled out their phones to replay videos, eager to relive the magic again. Others simply sat quietly, savoring the memory of the music and the emotions it had stirred. Throughout the evening, it became clear that the child had created more than a performance. They had created an experience. Every person present had been touched, whether through awe, joy, inspiration, or a sense of wonder. The restaurant, once an ordinary dining space, had been transformed into a place of connection and shared humanity, all through the voice and presence of a 10-year-old prodigy. Even as the restaurant slowly emptied, the impact of the performance lingered. Staff and diners alike talked about it, realizing that it was not just a song or a recital. It was a story, an emotion, a memory that would stay with them. The child's talent had reminded everyone of the beauty that exists in unexpected moments, of the extraordinary that can appear in everyday life, and of the simple power of music to unite and inspire. By the end of the night, the child's family quietly gathered their belongings, thanked the staff, and prepared to leave. The restaurant owner felt a mix of pride, gratitude, and awe. He knew that this night, like the music itself, would be remembered for years to come. The child had amazed everyone, not through showmanship or spectacle, but through dedication, passion, and the pure joy of sharing a gift. It was a night that proved once again that talent, when combined with humility and heart, could transform even the simplest of spaces into something unforgettable. The restaurant was still buzzing from the child's earlier performances, but no one could have guessed what was about to happen next. As the young prodigy prepared for another piece, a hush fell over the diners, a quiet anticipation that something extraordinary might unfold again. There was a sense in the air that this evening had only just begun to reveal its magic. A well-known opera singer happened to be dining in the restaurant that night. They had arrived with a small group of friends, expecting a normal dinner, unaware that the restaurant would soon host an event that would leave them as amazed as everyone else. When the first notes of the child's new song reached their ears, the singer looked up from their plate, immediately drawn to the voice. They had heard many talented singers in their career, but the clarity, power, and emotion of this 10-year-old's voice struck them in a way that made them stop mid-bite. The singer quietly moved closer, trying not to disturb the diners or the flow of the performance. Every note the child sang seemed to hold the attention of the room, and the singer felt compelled to join, drawn not just by admiration but by the instinct to harmonize with such natural talent. It was rare to hear someone so young convey emotion so fully, and the singer recognized a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The child continued, unaware of the approaching guest, singing with the same focus and passion that had captivated everyone before. Diners watched in awe, some leaning forward, some holding their hands over their hearts, moved by the emotion in the voice. The restaurant felt suspended in time, as though it had transformed into a small theater where music was the only language spoken. The stage, though simple, seemed to stretch into something grander, magnified by the connection between performer and audience. As the final note of the child's piece lingered in the air, the opera singer stepped gently forward, introducing themselves to the audience with a soft nod. The diners' attention shifted, realizing that someone extraordinary was about to add to the magic. The child looked up, slightly startled at first, but quickly smiled, recognizing a kindred spirit in music. The singer asked if it would be all right to join in for a short duet, and the child nodded, a mixture of excitement and humility shining on their face. The duet began carefully, with both voices blending together. The child's pure, bright tone complemented the rich, resonant voice of the singer, creating a harmony that filled every corner of the restaurant. Diners were completely captivated, some holding their breath as the notes intertwined, forming a melody that was at once delicate and powerful. It was a collaboration that felt natural, as if both voices had been meant to meet in this small restaurant on this particular evening. The song they chose was emotionally stirring, telling a story of dreams, hope, and perseverance. Each phrase was carefully balanced, allowing both voices to shine while enhancing each other. The singer's experience and control highlighted the child's innate talent, and the child's youthful purity brought a freshness and sincerity to the performance that no audience could ignore. Together, they created a sound that was greater than the sum of its parts, captivating diners and staff alike. Some diners were moved to tears, feeling the depth and beauty of the performance. Others whispered to friends, unable to contain their amazement, commenting on how incredible it was to witness such a rare collaboration. The staff, who had already been awed by the child's solo performances, watched with renewed admiration. Even the restaurant owner, who had been at the center of the evening's magic, felt a swell of pride and gratitude. Moments like this were not just performances, they were memories etched into the hearts of everyone present. The duet continued, each note perfectly timed, each pause deliberate and meaningful. The child followed the singer's lead when necessary but also contributed their own unique energy, creating a dynamic that felt both professional and deeply personal. The audience felt every emotion: joy, hope, longing, and awe, all woven seamlessly into the melody. It was as though the room itself had become an instrument, resonating with the power of the combined voices. As the performance reached its climax, the harmony became even more profound. Diners instinctively leaned forward, their faces reflecting amazement and delight. Some held hands, overwhelmed by the beauty they were witnessing. The music was no longer just sound. It had become an experience, touching hearts in ways that words could not describe. Every listener felt included, as if the song had been written specifically for them, speaking to each person's emotions in a personal and unforgettable way. The child's confidence grew with each note, not in arrogance, but in understanding the flow of the music and the connection with the singer. The opera singer, equally respectful of the child's talent, guided the duet without overshadowing, ensuring that the harmony remained balanced and captivating. The audience was entranced, some closing their eyes to savor the full depth of the music, others smiling broadly, unable to stop their admiration from showing. The final notes of the duet lingered in the air, soft and delicate, fading gently as if the music itself was reluctant to leave. A moment of silence followed, a collective pause in which the diners, staff, and family alike absorbed what they had just experienced. Then, as if on cue, the restaurant erupted in applause. Cheering and clapping filled the room, spontaneous and heartfelt. Some diners stood, some wiped tears from their eyes, all moved by the unforgettable performance. The child bowed modestly, acknowledging the audience and the singer, who in turn nodded in appreciation. The two performers shared a brief smile, a silent understanding passing between them that this was a unique, once-in-a-lifetime moment. The family expressed gratitude quietly, proud of the child but more impressed by the kindness and encouragement of the singer who had joined in to create something extraordinary. The diners lingered, reluctant to leave, sharing their experiences with one another, replaying the emotions in their minds. The restaurant owner felt a mix of pride and awe, realizing that the evening had become more than a simple night of dining. It had transformed into a shared celebration of talent, collaboration, and the beauty of music. The staff moved about with renewed energy and joy, motivated by the fact that they had been part of an experience that would be remembered for a lifetime. Even after the performance ended, the impact of the duet continued to resonate. Diners talked quietly about the harmony, the emotion, and the skill, inspired by the way two voices had come together to create something transcendent. The child's talent had grown even more remarkable in the presence of the opera singer, and the singer had discovered the joy of collaborating with someone so young and gifted. Together, they had created a moment that transcended the ordinary, leaving everyone present with a memory they would carry forever. As the night drew to a close, the child's family thanked the singer, expressing appreciation for the kindness and encouragement. The diners continued to discuss the performance long after the music ended, sharing their amazement and reflecting on the experience. It was clear that everyone present had witnessed something special, something that would remain in their hearts long after the restaurant had emptied. The young prodigy had not only amazed the restaurant with solo performances, but had also shown grace and humility in sharing the stage with a professional. The collaboration had added depth, emotion, and a sense of wonder, creating an unforgettable evening. The restaurant, though returning to its calm state, carried the memory of the voices that had filled its space, a reminder of the extraordinary magic that can appear when talent, passion, and opportunity come together. The night had grown quiet, yet the energy of what had just happened lingered in the restaurant. Diners who had experienced the young prodigy's performances and the incredible duet with the opera singer could not stop talking quietly among themselves. There was a sense of awe and gratitude in the air, a feeling that something extraordinary had touched everyone in the room. The atmosphere was still charged with the magic of music, the kind that leaves a lasting impression on the heart. The child sat with their family, quietly enjoying the calm after the excitement. There was no boastfulness, only a gentle satisfaction in having shared their gift. Parents smiled proudly but remained humble, understanding that this evening was not about fame, but about creating a meaningful experience for everyone present. They had always known their child was talented, but watching the reactions of strangers and witnessing the connection made through music was deeply rewarding. Diners continued to linger, savoring the memory of the performances. Some replayed videos on their phones, sharing clips with friends and family, while others simply sat quietly, letting the emotions from the evening settle. Conversations were soft and reflective, filled with wonder and appreciation. People spoke of the child's precision, the depth of emotion, and the remarkable collaboration with the opera singer. Each person had been touched in their own way, and it was clear that the evening would remain in their memories for years to come. The restaurant staff, too, felt a sense of pride and fulfillment. They had been part of something special, an event that transformed an ordinary night into an unforgettable experience. Servers shared their amazement quietly among themselves, recounting moments that had moved them or caught them by surprise. The head chef, who had been observing quietly from the kitchen, expressed gratitude for witnessing such raw talent and emotional depth. It was rare for any restaurant to host such a remarkable and genuine performance, and the staff understood the uniqueness of the evening. The restaurant owner walked through the room, speaking briefly with diners and staff, sharing smiles and congratulations. He felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, both for the child's talent and for the willingness of the opera singer to join in. Together, they had created an evening that transcended the ordinary, reminding everyone that magic could appear in unexpected places. The owner quietly reflected that hosting such a moment was more than just good business. It was a privilege and a reminder of the beauty life could offer. Even as the evening wound down, the child's presence continued to inspire. Children who had been watching with wide eyes began to imagine themselves performing or pursuing their own passions. Adults, too, were reminded of the importance of dedication, humility, and the courage to share one's talents. The performances had not only entertained, but had also created a ripple effect of inspiration, encouraging everyone to appreciate the power of creativity and perseverance. Before leaving, the opera singer spoke briefly with the child, offering words of encouragement and admiration. The young performer listened carefully, absorbing the advice and appreciation with quiet grace. There was a mutual respect that transcended age and experience, a recognition that both had contributed to a moment greater than either could have achieved alone. Diners watched the exchange, feeling a warmth in their hearts from witnessing such a genuine and meaningful interaction. As the child and their family prepared to leave, diners expressed their gratitude and admiration once more. Handshakes, smiles, and kind words filled the space. The staff assisted politely, making sure the family had everything they needed for a smooth departure. Even as the child walked out the door, the echoes of their music seemed to linger in the minds of everyone present, a gentle reminder of the evening's magic. The restaurant gradually returned to its regular rhythm, but it was forever changed by the events of the night. Patrons left with stories to tell, some sharing videos, others simply recounting their personal feelings and reactions. The child had achieved more than applause. They had created a shared emotional experience, a moment that connected strangers through the power of music. The opera singer's collaboration had elevated the performance even further, creating an unforgettable harmony that would resonate long after the evening ended. The staff cleaned and closed the restaurant, but their conversations were filled with excitement and reflection. Each person recounted their favorite moments, sharing laughter, awe, and even a few tears. The restaurant had become more than a place to eat. It had been a stage for something extraordinary, a place where everyday life intersected with pure, unfiltered talent. The owner, staff, and diners alike felt privileged to have been part of it. Later, the family returned home, carrying with them not just memories, but also a renewed sense of purpose. The child reflected quietly on the performances, feeling gratitude for the opportunity to share their music and for the encouragement received from both the diners and the opera singer. It was a night of lessons in humility, focus, and the beauty of connecting with others through art. Parents spoke softly with the child, reinforcing the importance of passion, dedication, and staying grounded despite recognition or praise. The following days brought messages and calls from diners who had experienced the evening. Many wanted to express their amazement and appreciation, some asking when they might hear the child perform again. It was clear that the impact of the night had spread beyond the walls of the restaurant, touching lives and creating stories that would be shared with others. The child's talent had become a beacon of inspiration, showing how one person's passion could influence many. Even the opera singer shared the experience on social media, praising the child's remarkable ability and the heartfelt duet they had performed together. Comments and messages poured in, expressing admiration and amazement at the young prodigy's skill and the magic of the collaboration. The story of that night traveled quickly, touching people far beyond the restaurant, highlighting the universal appeal of talent combined with humility and dedication. In reflecting on the evening, the restaurant owner realized that hosting such a performance was a reminder of why they loved their work. Restaurants were often places of routine, of meals and conversations, but occasionally they could become spaces of art and connection. That night had been one of those rare occasions, proving that extraordinary moments could happen anywhere, with anyone, when opportunity, preparation, and talent met. The child's journey did not end with that night. Invitations for future performances arrived, as local events and community programs sought to showcase such remarkable talent. Yet despite the attention, the child remained grounded, focused on music itself rather than the recognition it brought. The evening had taught a valuable lesson, that sharing talent sincerely and humbly could create experiences far more meaningful than fame alone. The restaurant, the diners, the staff, the family, and the opera singer all carried with them the memory of that night. It was a story they would recount to friends and family, a story of a 10-year-old prodigy whose voice could fill a room with wonder, of an unexpected collaboration that elevated the performance to unforgettable heights, and of a community brought together by the pure joy of music. It was a night that would linger in hearts and minds, a testament to the power of talent, passion, and human connection. As the days passed, those who had been present often reflected on the experience, finding inspiration in their own lives. Parents encouraged their children to pursue their interests with dedication. Adults considered the importance of supporting and appreciating talent in others. The memory of the prodigy's performance and the duet with the opera singer served as a gentle reminder that moments of beauty could be found in ordinary places, ready to transform a simple evening into something extraordinary. Ultimately, the evening became a story not just of music, but of humanity. It showed how talent, humility, and opportunity could intersect to create magic, how strangers could be brought together through shared emotion, and how a single performance could leave a lasting impression on countless lives. The 10-year-old prodigy had amazed the whole restaurant, not just with skill, but with the ability to touch hearts, inspire dreams, and create a memory that would never be forgotten. And in that, the true power of music and the beauty of human connection were revealed in their purest form.